John.
Eric. Hello. Wednesday night.
Still the same intro.
You're yelling at me. John! No, it's okay. It's okay.
Just trying to make you wake up.
I am.
I'm half asleep myself.
I'm so yawning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, how do I not... Okay. How you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm going to edit that part out.
Do as you will. You do as you will. You have the pen, as they say.
So I always start with my weekend. So what did you do this weekend?
We'll
mix it up.
I overdid it this weekend. Is what I did. So
in what context?
So my wife and I went to lunch on Friday, and as we were talking about what the weekend entailed, we have a leaking barn roof, and I called a roofer like months ago. I might even have said something on the podcast. I don't remember. And like I've tried to get a hold of them again, and I don't know. Maybe they are suffering from a lack of work or something, or lack of workers, but like they're not getting back to me. So I would have happily paid some money to have this roof problem fixed, but I was kind of running out of time. And so,
the rainy season is beginning soon.
Let's say that she was very clear with me on Saturday night that she was like, I did not actually ask you to do that. I just said we needed to like get that moving forward. So I went and on Saturday morning and I got some brush on silicone, and I got up on the roof and I spent 5 hours, as it turns out, brushing silicone on nails. Because there were a bunch that were leaking. I didn't know how many. And so when I had talked to the roofers, they were like, oh, yeah, what we would do on this is we would get that brush on silicone and we would brush all the nail holes. We'd then make sure that those didn't leak. And then they have like this paint stuff that they put on the whole thing. And it puts like a whole sort of single, like the silicone all kind of congeals together. And that's what they would cover. This is for like an old metal barn roof. So I was like, okay. So, in Friday night, I watched some YouTube videos and I was like, oh, okay, I got this. But 5 hours standing on a probably 30-degree roof incline. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, it was not like super hot. It was like 70 degrees, but the roof was still too hot to like touch with your bare skin, and I was fine. I felt fine at the time. I mean, I got a little tired, and but I had a book. I'm listening to a book that I was really enjoying, and it's about quantitative investing.
Okay.
So I was just plugged in, and I'm painting on the silicone. But come the end of my gallon bucket, I had only gotten a gallon, and I didn't figure it would close and like save very well. So that's why I was kind of like, I wanted to push and get all the way through the bucket or the gallon. I then realized, I'm having a hard time actually like moving. I'm really tired and I'm really sore. And so Sunday, my calves were so sore, I could barely move. So anyway, needless to say, I did a couple of small things on Sunday, but for the most part, I did not work on Sunday. So I watched most of a couple football games and played a game on the iPad with my son while we quote watched football, aka played a game. But anyway,
right.
Anyway, so Sunday was a very relaxing day, but Saturday was John, you are not 25 anymore. What are you thinking? So anyway, that was my Sunday. I do have I thought I was going to be here today. These doggone corporations can't get their story straight, but I was talking to a friend last week as well, and they're not actually even in the US, but they live in a different country. And so they had, a 4G for their internet. And he's like, why don't you do that in the US? I was complaining about my network connection, as I do frequently. And I'm like, well, it's not available. I mean, I keep going to the T-Mobile site and they say it's not available. And so, like, literally while I was complaining about it not being available, I went again to the T-Mobile site, who then said, oh, yes, we're available in your area. So I said, go. Send me one of those gateways. And
okay.
T-Mobile said that it would show up today. And when it had not arrived by 8 p.m., I went back to the T-Mobile tracking page and clicked on the UPS tracking page, which I had not clicked on before. And UPS says it will show up on Monday. So this is Wednesday. This is not Monday. I don't know why it's going to take an extra 5 days, but evidently I have been patient for 5 years. I can wait 5 more days. But I am trying not to get my hopes up too high. But I have a great line of sight to the towers.
Right, the 5G towers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what my bandwidth is going to be, but I'm just hoping that it's something more than my current 10. Because at least T-Mobile's price, again, there's so many caveats, but T-Mobile's price is half of what I'm currently paying. Not that I can pay them more. I would pay them more if they could guarantee me better bandwidth, but they only have one plan, which is 5G, and so anyway, I am waiting with breathless anticipation to redo my entire network next Monday night. But we will see. My fingers are crossed.
I will be curious to hear how it works for you.
I know. I don't know. So
because if you think about it, phones do pretty well, pretty speedy, but running an entire house on a network, I'll be curious.
Well, I like when we want to download something reliably, we will often turn Wi-Fi off on our phones. And that works awesome. Except the stupid phones have limitations that say, oh, I'm sorry, this file's too big to download on the cellular network. You need to download this sometime when you're on Wi-Fi. And I'm like, generally, if I could download it while I was on Wi-Fi, I would, and I can't. So I have to drive into McDonald's or to Starbucks or... And this is, am I living in the 21st century or am I not living in the 21st century? So anyway, if there was a way for me to turn off in the OS, iOS, I really don't care if it's 10 gigs. I want to download it on my cell service.
Cellular.
Because I have quote unquote unlimited cell plans.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will see.
Well, cool.
That was my weekend.
Nice. Well, my weekend was not as tiring, but I did spend a lot of time cleaning. I guess it's not called spring cleaning. It's more fall cleaning. I spent a lot of time working on my office and just everything around the house on the inside and the outside, just cleaning just to get something done. And we didn't do this last weekend, but I forgot to mention it last week. Have you gone and seen the Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings movie?
We did. I loved it.
I thought it was fabulous. My wife and I went for a 5:00 showing. Mm-hmm. We were the only. There was a handful of people in the theater, so it was very comfortable. That was my first time back in the movie theater since the whole COVID thing started, and I love going to the movies. I used to. And so I was a little worried going to the movie theater and feeling, am I going to be in a crowd of people? Is it going to be uncomfortable to be kind of all stuck in a mask in the dark and not being able to enjoy my popcorn? How's it going to work? Mm-hmm. There was 10 people in the theater and it was fabulous. And the movie was awesome. So if you haven't seen it, if anyone hasn't seen it, I can totally recommend it. Top of the list of the Marvel movies. If you like any of the Marvel movies, you'll like this one. I
very much enjoyed it. Yeah, it was very good. And we went. So that's actually my second movie back because I took my boys, just the boys and I, and we went and saw Free Guy a couple weeks ago, maybe I don't know, a few weeks ago, and there were 2 other people in the theater at that point, like, in the
Yeah.
in like the very back row. And so I mean, we were, I don't know, 5 or 6 rows apart, and distant in time as well. Anyway, or distant in the which columns we were sitting in. So anyway, that was totally fine. When we went to Shang-Chi, we went to the 7-something showing, and it was not a full theater by any stretch of the imagination, but probably 30% full. So enough people that I kept my mask on the whole time, and was fine with it. But I think matinee's still the way to go at the moment.
Yeah, if you're able to sneak out, I would. It's on my list. Anyways, there you go. Yep. We should probably start talking security stuff in the Mostly Security podcast.
All right.
Playing the role of John today.
We'll do the partially Eric. Security. Okay, so I threw one thing in Follow Up, which was a Microsoft released a follow-up blog for the CVE-2021-40444 vulnerability, which was the MS HTML vulnerability from just last week, I think. So they do have a patch out for it. And, Microsoft released a lot more information in here about their overall timeline and a little bit about some of the things that they observed. There was a bunch of, I didn't actually pull out quotes from this, but they went through a number of details of how they were not attributing to a particular actor, but based on similarity, kind of clustering the actions against some suspected actors. So what they call dev, because they're in development, and other companies like, say Unknown or something like that. Let's see, there's a couple, I did pull out a couple quotes that I thought were interesting. The first is that they say that customers who enabled attack surface reduction rules to block Office from creating child processes are not impacted by the exploit technique. So that's something I know a lot of security companies, I don't know, at least we do, have rules in place to enable that sort of, detection of that sort of activity. The critical kind of comment on this, though, was, the initial exploit leveraged this document, but then it says, while these attacks use a vulnerability to access entry point devices and run highly privileged code, the secondary actions taken by the attackers still rely on stealing credentials and moving laterally to cause organization-wide impact. This illustrates the importance of investing in attack surface reduction, credential hygiene, and lateral movement mitigations. So that's kind of the security in-depth argument that, you need to have detections in place for, when someone or something gets popped. The second thing I pulled out is a little bit of the process. Because technically, since this was downloaded from an external source, it should have been tagged by, well, not all ways that you download something create a mark of the web, but in general, things like IE or Chromium, or not Chromium, what's Microsoft's Edge, Chrome, create, basically it's a file, a zone file in the NTFS alternate data stream that says, where the file was downloaded from. And, having a zone file in place, the quote here is, this invokes protected mode in Microsoft Office, requiring user interaction to disable it to run content such as macros. However, in this instance, when opened without a mark of the web present, the document's payload executed immediately without user interaction, indicating the abuse of a vulnerability. So that was, one of the issues, kind of a side effect, I guess, or not really a side effect, but an observable here of what, what the behavior was. And then, what's the other thing I kind of pulled out there? There was an interesting article, a good article. But let's see. The other interesting thing in here was the timeline. They even had a graph here that showed the increase in exploitation after the security advisory was released. So, they said here on September 7th, so that was just over a week ago, Microsoft released a security advisory containing a partial workaround. As a routine in these instances, Microsoft was working to ensure the detections described in the advisory would be in place and a patch would be available before public disclosure. During the same time, a third-party researcher reported a sample to Microsoft from the same campaign originally shared by Mandiant. This sample was publicly disclosed on September 8th. So, I hadn't actually caught that nuance. They're basically saying, we didn't give the public disclosure because they did mention earlier they were working quietly with a researcher from Mandiant who had indicated that they had a sample. But anyway, it says this sample was publicly disclosed on September 8th. We observed a rise in exploitation attempts within 24 hours. So that was the
boom.
That was the boom, which, I did notice a day or two ago that there was actual exploit code available on GitHub too. So if you have not patched, patch. So that's that. That was follow up. So, what topic did you bring today?
Well, so I stumbled across a data leakage, a present, whatever the right word is. So Walgreens is a place you can go to get COVID tests. I have gone to Walgreens and got COVID tests at Walgreens. And apparently Walgreens, the COVID test data where it would report your results, you had to fill in a bunch of information, name, date of birth, phone number, address, email, a bunch of stuff to Walgreens to then get your COVID test. And then when you fill out the form, a ID number is granted to you, and then you can go to a website with that ID number and see the results of your test, along with all the data that you submitted. And the kicker here is anyone that has the link can see the information. There's no authentication, there's no login, there's no validation. So if someone had your email or someone took your, had that link, they could click on the link and it would reveal a bunch of data information. So it's a little bit more detail. Mm-hmm. The researchers went through and found the type of test, all the information that would be available through the browser without having to authenticate or prove, there was, it's health insurance, it's health information. So it falls under a little bit more strict guidelines than other things. So there's more details in the article. But one of the things that I was now curious of after reading this was, hey, we and the whole family went to Walgreens, and I've been to Walgreens a couple times to get different kinds of COVID tests as a result of being potentially exposed and whatnot over the course of the last 18 months. Mm-hmm. And the process and procedure that was described in the article here is not the same as mine. And so I wonder if it was, the article just kind of blanketed it to say Walgreens, which is a national chain here. I don't know if they're outside the US, but it's a big, national chain. But for at least out here in Oregon, the Walgreens that I went through was partnering with another company, a health insurance company that took in the information and gave the results. And so for me, when I went to try to see if I could recreate, I couldn't recreate this issue.
It's a different process.
It was a different process. It was similar in that I got emailed a link and I clicked on the link and there was no authentication. It just sent me to a page, but that link expired within 30 days, I think. So when I went to try to click on the link, it sent me to hey, I'm sorry, that link has expired and no longer available. And I went and checked my email. They had automatically sent me another one saying, "Hey, you tried to click on an expired link. We already know who you are. We're just going to send you another link."
Another one.
And I clicked on the link, and there, of course, was my COVID test results. And I tried doing a couple things, just kind of, incrementing the ID number, see if it was numbered. It seemed random enough that it wasn't at least incremental, or it failed on the few random things I tried. So just kind of websites have bugs. Some are worse than others. This one, I suppose, not horrible, but it does have to deal with health information, and I'm sure Walgreens will be fixing this or addressing this as soon as possible for at least the affected areas. This article, what I saw, was out of New York.
Right.
So maybe they had a different process in the Walgreens covered by New York.
Well, so I guess what this makes me think about is, one of the things about having a page with a link to a page with a random identifier being quote unquote private, it really depends on what the fill rate is of that identifier. So, if Walgreens had 500 million tests with a 32-bit number, that means that 1 out of every 8 requests would result in a random person's information. So, you wouldn't with that be able to target, I want to find Eric's results, but you could certainly find lots of people's results. I remember years ago, there were some vulnerabilities like this related to like OneDrive file links and some of those document sharing sites that they used to have, where you could get a link, but that link had like 5, it was alphanumeric, but it was like five not digits, 5 numerical or alphabetical characters.
Right.
And, those file sharing services have millions and millions and millions of items. And so, I remember some research on that. So what matters for that is, what's the fill rate? And that's where, yes, the URL's ugly, but people aren't going to be even typing in a 32-digit ID. So use a GUID.
No.
Right? Like
you're clicking if you're making people click a link anyways,
use a GUID.
Yeah, it can be more than 32 bits.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so anyway,
that's all I had.
That's good. That's a good one. So I have one of the stories that happened this week was it's security adjacent in the sense that these are security personnel. Well, they called them intelligence operatives, but I'm not sure. Not sure what that exactly means, because I don't know. I didn't do too much research in here. But JR posted a link in the Slack channel that said that one of these people that got arrested or that got charged actually works for a popular VPN company as the CIO. So it's interesting. But anyway, so this is 3 former U.S. intelligence operatives who worked as cyber spies for the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, admitted to violating U.S. hacking laws and prohibitions on selling sensitive military technology under a deal to avoid prosecution announced on Tuesday. So these are 3, I didn't pull it out here, but I believe U.S. citizens that were part of what they called a clandestine unit named Project Raven. And this was the article we'll put in here as a Reuters article, because Reuters were the first to report on the existence of this. And the goal of Project Raven was to help the UAE spy on its enemies. And so it says that at the behest of the UAE's monarchy, the Project Raven team hacked into the accounts of human rights activists, journalists, and rival governments. And that revelations of Project Raven in 2019, so a couple years ago, by Reuters highlighted the growing practice of former intelligence operatives selling their spycraft overseas with little oversight or accountability. Mm-hmm. The deal here is that these 3 officials agreed to pay a combined $1.69 million in, I guess, fine. And this is interesting, and never again seek a U.S. security clearance. Mm. So there's many security jobs that do not require clearances, but that may or may not be a big, like if they're working for the UAE, is $1.7 million a lot of money to them? I don't know.
No idea.
That's a lot of money, period. But is it a lot of money? Certainly not a lot of money to the United Arab Emirates. Anyway, so the other cool thing about this, I thought, was a quote in here that says, the most significant catalyst to bringing this issue to light was investigative journalism. The timely technical information reported created the awareness and momentum to ensure justice. Okay. I'm a big fan of the free press and the need for the, what do they say, the fourth estate. So I'm into John's philosophical stuff a little bit, but I'm a big believer in sunlight as a good what is it? Sunlight's a good antiseptic. Transparency. I love our world in data. Yeah. I think that so much goes on under the covers because there isn't transparency. So I love situations like this where, a good journalist made a difference. So anyway, this says that the 3 admitted to having deployed a sophisticated cyber weapon called Karma. That sounds familiar. I don't remember if we talked about it. I didn't go look that up, but it says it allowed the UAE to hack into Apple iPhones without requiring a target to click on malicious links. So, some form of zero-click attack. We've talked about those, the
NSO group.
Yep, NSO. Yep. But, things like sending a malformed image in a text to somebody where just the receipt of the image or a document causes a fault and compromise, and that this allowed them to access tens of millions of devices and qualified as a, quote, intelligence gathering system under federal export control rules. But the operatives did not obtain the required U.S. government permission to sell the tool to the UAE. So I don't know, that last sentence kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong, as in, well, it's okay if you just have permission.
Sounds like that they got Al Capone on tax evasion kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had filed your form, but you didn't file the correct form. So anyway, but I thought that's a good article. And then there's if you go down this rabbit hole, there's tons of articles on this at the moment. But this seemed like one of the bigger pieces of news of the week. Mm-hmm. So
ready for my something fun?
Hit me. Not really. Don't really hit me.
Big day in space today.
Oh, I did not get to watch this.
SpaceX launched the Inspiration 4. They're called the Inspiration 4. It is 4 civilian astronauts went up on the Dragon rocket today, and they're going to orbit the Earth for 3 days and then return home.
Okay.
So
and it launched successfully. I know you texted me the live link, but I did not have the chance to watch it.
Everything went fine. I have not followed up, but there is a website you can follow, Inspiration and then number 4. So inspiration4.com. There's a Netflix documentary. They've been kind of following these 4 individuals. The 4 individuals have Wikipedia pages now. So,
awesome.
It's one of them, the astronauts, civilian astronauts, is a 29-year-old woman who has a prosthetic, which will be the youngest woman in space and the first astronaut with a prosthetic. And she works for St. Jude's hospital. So, and they're trying to raise money for St. Jude's for this. One of the commander for the mission is a billionaire, I think is how they described him. He's trying to raise $200 million for St. Jude's. he ponied up 100 million of his own money, and then is going to space and trying to raise money for St. Jude's and hoping to get 200 million for St. Jude's, the children's hospital here in the U.S.
Holy moly. This is going to be an amazing year for St. Jude's. Good for them.
It's a feel-good story all around. So 3 days from now, they should return to Earth. And I mean, they're up there doing science experiments. They're, have different skills. And, they're not just, 4 rich people who went to space. They were chosen for various reasons, which I'm sure the Netflix documentary, which we can link here, will tell you all about. So that was cool. And I watched the launch today. It was, inspiring. Inspiration 4 is aptly named.
Awesome.
And then my second something fun.
2 something fun.
Because I had this one last week and didn't use it, is NASA wants to create a new telescope using a lunar crater on the dark side of the moon, on the far side of the moon. So using an actual crater, a 1 kilometer diameter crater, they can create a radio telescope. What was it called? Yeah, it'll be the largest filled aperture radio telescope in the solar system to start observing early universe 10 to 50 meter wavelength, the 6 to 30 megahertz frequency band, it says, which has as of yet been explored. And they have this whole plan on using these DuAxel robots. So I have another link from JPL in here where you can see this robot that they would use to lay out these wires and these cables to create this telescope on the far side of the moon. And these robots are basically designed to climb up crater walls, on the moon, Mars, etc. So I don't know when this is going to happen, but this would be really cool to have a crater, because it's outside of any interference from the sun, the earth, any of the, so they would able to start observing things that they have not been able to observe just due to where all our possible telescopes have been up to this point. So I thought that was cool. So there is it's all space something fun for me today.
Those DuAxels look cool. Are they kind of like Segways? The 2-wheeled rovers? Looks like it's 2 Segway.
I don't know.
That then can get tethered together. Anyway, okay,
right.
That's that's super cool. Okay, my something fun is I know I told you I was looking at this, but I got myself a toy.
Oh, did you actually get it?
I did. Now, I haven't. Nothing is easy. Nothing. Why is nothing easy? I don't know. So it wound up taking 2 trips. So I have been sort of in the market for an X-Carve. At least I've had a Craigslist search for like a used X-Carve for a long time, like more than a year probably. Because it hasn't been super important to me. Well, I'm intrigued, but I buy these. I buy toys and I do stuff and I learn stuff and I like it. And then like my 3D printer hasn't printed anything for probably a month. And it's okay. I know myself, but I also like to learn stuff. And like this seems super cool. Anyway, so I saw a Craigslist. I got an email from Craigslist saying, "Hey, your search term matched." And this has happened, I don't know, once a month or every month or 2 for a while. But there's always something that I'm like, it's really a lot of money. It's it looks like it's, just didn't quite feel right or whatever. And anyway, this one came up and I was like, wow, that looks perfect. It was on a nice shop cart. It was all set up. It had the boot with the vacuum. And anyway.
Right.
So I was like, okay. So I texted the person and, it turned out to be this gal who runs a blog, actually, and was, had used it for some of her, maker spacing. Anyway,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
and so I was like, okay, we're going to go. And so then I hook up the trailer thinking that I would just be able to roll it up the ramp and it would be all hunky dory. And I wound up with a flat tire. So,
oh no.
And like not just a flat tire, if I fill up the tire with air, it's like hissing. So it was particularly bad. So I had already arranged, I'll be there at 6:30. So I was like, well,
right.
I don't quite know how heavy it's going to be, but we'll just take the truck and maybe, and I made my kids come with me so that maybe we could lift it up into the back of the truck.
Right.
There was no way we were lifting that in the back of the truck. Not the base and everything, but the X-Carve itself was just on top. So we put I said, yep, do it. We put the X-Carve in the back of the truck, just like, on down, and kind of cushioned the router, and took it home. And then the next day, which I guess was yesterday, I had a doctor's appointment in town in the afternoon. And so I took the tire in, dropped it off at the tire place on my way in, and then picked it up on my way back and put it back on, and blah, 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 blah. And then last night I went over and I got the actual thing. So anyway, I got it. But it took, it took 2 evenings, or, time out of 2 evenings. But this is a small CNC, 1 meter by 1 meter. So, 3 foot by 3 foot if you're Imperial. And,
Cue Darth Vader March.
Yeah. Theme. So, and, I have a whole bunch of stuff to learn about it. So she had it plugged in and working, so I know it works. But I've got a bunch to do, not least to figure out where I'm going to squeeze it into my shop. So that is probably it's my hope for this weekend. I'm this weekend's supposed to be rainy, and I'm kind of hoping for rain. I'm kind of hoping for like a nice continuous downpour of there's nothing to be done but stay inside the shop and tinker and get that set up. So that's my hope, but that's my something fun. So
okay,
I will let you know how it goes.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that works, because I have no place for one, but I've always thought one of these would be cool. So I will use you as a proxy.
Well,
and
if
I really get into designing something that I want to try, I will hit you up.
Exactly. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it looks. I've watched like so the last 48 hours. I've watched a number of YouTube videos, primarily focusing on tuning and like tensioning the belts and like making sure that it's all well configured. So yeah. Anyway, we'll see. That's my something fun.
Okay,
and
that's awesome.
I'm hoping that it'll be my something fun for quite a while. But we'll see.
All right.
Well,
call
it a show.
Have a good night, John.
I'll talk to you later, Eric.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.